Hello, my name is Evelina Silveira. I'm a Canadian citizen, born and raised in Canada, and I'm also a diversity consultant with Diversity at Work in London. I own my own business and have been in the field for 12 years. Prior to starting my business, I spent about 15 years in the nonprofit sector where I worked in a number of capacities, mainly working with new Canadians and people with disabilities and women, abused women. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that is deeply concerning for me, not only from a professional point of view, but as a Canadian citizen. And that is our Prime Minister's attitude about women. And even though our Prime Minister has called himself a feminist, today's presentation, I'm going to really challenge what he means by that based on the actions that I have seen over the last year and a half with him. And let's start from the beginning. Okay, when our Prime Minister was elected, shortly afterwards, he put together his cabinet and indicated that it was time that the cabinet reflected the population. Okay, great idea. So he went for gender parity, 50% of the cabinet being female. And that was a deliberate decision on his behalf. He believed that that was the best thing to do. And maybe in most circumstances, that is the good thing to do. However, it is also quite an antiquated way of looking at diversity. It is not good enough to say that we are going to hire people based on a diversity dimension or an ascribed sort of status. That doesn't take into consideration people's skill set, their knowledge, their experience, and so forth. And in my estimation, by choosing this sort of formula, it doesn't always bring about the best results. And when we look at some of the female politicians that have been brought into his cabinet, I don't think that they are the best or the strongest female politicians that would be a great role model for any aspiring female who is watching all of this. Unlike some of the stronger female politicians that I might see in the progressive conservative cabinet or even the NDP. So this is very problematic for me, especially when I see that issues are emerging around citizenship discrepancy, even credentials. Somebody saying that they were a doctor when they actually weren't, and so forth. I don't think the screening for skills and others was done very thoroughly, whether it was for the females or the males. In any type of organization, you need your best people. So if the best people happen to be all females, then all females should be hired. If the cabinet, all the best skills were coming from males, or if they were coming from racialized groups, so be it. This is a really complex company. This is a really complex organization, so to speak, Canada, and with complex problems. And we need the best people and forget the quotas. Quotas are an antiquated way of looking at things, and they don't always present the best results. When you look at more than one diversity dimension together, then that's a different story. If you look, for instance, at somebody's gender, their work experience, maybe international experience, their understanding of disability issues and other languages, all of those kinds of things put together. That is a better realistic picture of a skill set, rather than appointing people based on who they were when they were born, whether they were white, whether they were male, whether they're whatever. Okay. The other part that is especially problematic for somebody who says that they are a feminist is that when he appointed these cabinet ministers, he made a third of the female cabinet ministers were junior ministers, which means that the salary was considerably lower. Now, I understand that has changed somewhat, but still, if fair is fair, is equal, then everybody should be on the same page, right? And the same salary and the same status. Okay, so that has to do with gender parity. Now, let's look at something that is really unbelievable, and that is Trudeau's parliamentary behavior. Okay, let's go back about a year and a half or so. Remember the incident in Parliament where he just runs through Parliament, or like a pouting child, and elbows a woman and says, "Get the F out of the way"? Well, think about that. If that happened in your workplace, would that be tolerated? Probably not. I can tell you right now that those are the kinds of calls that I get for my bullying and harassment sensitivity training. Trudeau could easily be one of my clients. And based on some of that kind of behavior, that is aggressive, it's degrading, it's arrogant, it's all of that. But I find what was even more disturbing for me to watch was the question period over and over again, where Trudeau sat and had questions asked to him from the opposition. He just sat there, didn't answer them, but asked Bardish Chagger to respond to those questions. So basically, she was taking on Trudeau's role for a number of sessions in the House of Commons. Basically, he was not in the capacity to answer those questions, and he made it her role. He basically gave her his dirty work. So he gave a woman his dirty work to do, to respond to questions and to be degraded because there were no answers, and she had to repeat his party line consistently. On top of that, if you want to add another layer of degradation to this, is that she was a woman of color. So if for those people who are into anti-oppression theory, here you've got double oppression. You've got a woman doing his dirty work, and then you have a racialized woman doing his dirty work. Okay, so that was very, very cringeworthy for me. Would he have done that to a man? I don't think so. I haven't seen that. And I felt really disgusted by that behavior. Not only was he unaccountable, but the fact that he would pass on this work to someone else. I mean, let's face it, over the years, prime ministers have a lot of very difficult and sensitive discussions that they need to have, but it doesn't help when they shy away from it, not provide answers, and then on top of it, get a spokesperson for them to do it. I don't know. That doesn't sound very adult and responsible for me. Okay. Then let's talk about these barbaric practices that he will not condemn. Like I said before, I spent many years working in the field with immigrant women. Okay. This means, unfortunately, that I have come across many women in the city of London, Ontario. Okay, I'm not talking about a huge city, so we can only imagine what it's like in a larger city, who have been victims of child marriage, forced marriage, and female genital mutilation. I have I had a friend who disclosed that she had that done, female genital mutilation. It was very degrading for her to go to the hospital when she had children. She felt so ashamed. She said that she would never, ever allow anyone to do that to her child, and still resented her mother for having allowed that to happen. I have had friends who were forced into marriage at a young age to their cousins, who by the time they were 25, they had about 6 kids. They were unhappy, they were abused, and so forth. These practices are barbaric. And I'm here to tell you that as a diversity consultant, I feel very comfortable in saying that they are barbaric. Yes, the word barbaric comes from a place where it is meant to, this term is considered to be racist and so forth. But in this context, I don't think it is. These are devastating practices that have no place, not in Western society or any society. When we talk about women's rights, we talk about human rights. Talk to those women who have been subject to female genital mutilation. Talk to women who were forced into marrying their cousin when they were 14 years old and beaten into submission. Talk to those women, and you will see that they need these supports. They need our government to say that they are wrong. This is wrong. Not only that, but we need to do a better job when it comes to educating women when they come here about their rights, but their spouses and the men that come over here too. Several years ago, it might have been about 15 or 16, 17 years ago, I remember a Sudanese woman telling me, Evelina, I was so happy that the Canadian government told us when we were in Egypt, when we were on our way here, told my husband that he can't beat me anymore. And she said, I felt like this was a good country to go to. We need to do a better job. We are not doing a good job when it comes to protecting women and children. And you could also say protecting men as well. Because if they don't know these laws when they come here, it won't be long before they're in jail or in prison or so forth, and they will not be able to provide for their families. Again, that's another disintegration of the family. And we see over and over again different types of different newscasts about wife assault in new communities, new Canadian communities. And this could possibly be happening because they are not aware of these laws. And so we need to do more here. And these are fundamental values that we've worked hard to achieve. And we still have a long ways to go. But if we cannot make women feel safer, and if we cannot protect women and children in our society, then something is really wrong. And if we don't take these steps to ensure that what we've achieved so far is protected, then slowly it will disintegrate and we'll be back to where we were before, if not worse. Okay, now let's talk about women's choice. the only choice, it seems so far, that we hear from the Liberal government is pro-choice. And okay, that's fine, but Liberal government also traditionally has had a big Catholic base as well. And while we can have pro-choice, pro-life is also a choice too. So I think that it's important that when we're living in a democracy that we look at both. And remember also that some women are pro-life as well. Let's talk about entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs. It seems like there's a lot of talk about it in conferences, so forth, and a lot of money going to other countries to help female entrepreneurs. But I'm not seeing a lot of support for people like me and tons of other female entrepreneurs who could just use a little bit more support, and we could be launching very, very profitable businesses that could stimulate the economy in communities like mine, for instance, where there's a 1 in 4 adults who are unemployed. But it seems like this Liberal government is investing in everybody except for Canadians. And let's not forget that some entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs like myself, who started off as mompreneurs, we've made the choice to not only support our families, but want to have quality time with our children too. And that is a value, that we have. And we managed to do all of that. And there seems to be that from this Liberal government that all we are seeing is tax cheats and people who want to start their businesses in their home just to get tax benefits. Nothing could be further from the truth for at least, I'm sure, most of us. We're constantly working, and we have the family values and we have work values. We have all kinds of things. But I'm just saying to you, open up your eyes and realize that people like me and many others, male entrepreneurs as well, who are just on the verge of doing something so great that could be where there could be more financing that could create jobs. Why are we not investing in people, more like people like me and all my female friends entrepreneurs who've developed these great systems and products, but they don't have the funding or the infrastructure to do more. Okay, so that's my beef. Okay, and now probably the most controversial is why? Why are you bringing over ISIS fighters? Why are you trying to rehabilitate people who I don't think can be rehabilitated? And if this isn't such a slap in the face for all victims of violence, female and other, when you are bringing in and investing probably millions of dollars coming from checks that I write from my hardworking business to support people who have raped, murdered, set people on fire who are in cages, and to give these people a priority over others like Yazidi or Christian communities who were victims of these people. It is inconceivable for me. It's disrespectful. It's degrading. It is, I think, for all the women that I have worked with over the years who are victims of violence, this is really scary. This is putting everybody at risk in Canada. This is a huge betrayal. So what I'd like to end off with is this. When you have a leader who says something, they need to walk the talk when it comes to inclusion. What I've outlined today is really that the Trudeau government has a premise that they are pro-woman, but I believe the items that I have listed here have indicated otherwise. I really ask you to question some of these moves that the Trudeau government has made. Are they really supporting women? After all of this, can you honestly say that the Trudeau government is pro-woman? Yes or no? Thank you for listening. My name is Evelina Silveira with Diversity at Work, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.